You can feel free to drop any questions that you have either in that Q&A box, and we'll answer those, or in the chat today. Cool. All right, well, we'll get started. My name's Katie, and I'm the alumni coordinator with the College of Health Solutions. And what my job is to do is to connect alumni back to you guys so that they can share their experiences. It's something kind of new that we're doing and really exciting. And I'm so happy to have these two panelists here today to share their experience, both as students and then what life looked like after they left campus and got a job, became real adults, which isn't a thing. One other thing that we just want to highlight is next week on October 29th, we're hosting another panel about racial healthcare disparities. And that's going to also feature a panel of Black alumni sharing their experiences as students and now working in the healthcare field. And so I'll drop that registration link in the chat so you guys can come join us for that. But without further ado, want our panelists to be able to share a little bit about who they are and get to your questions. So Marcus, you want to start with tell us a little bit about you, what you did when you were in school and what you're doing now.
All right, so a little about me. I grew up in Northern California. The town's called Brentwood. It's about an hour east of San Francisco, if anyone's familiar with it. There wasn't really a lot to do there, so I grew up playing sports year round. And both of my parents have been educators my whole life, so I really had a big focus on education growing up, and the sports kind of just all tied in with that. So I got into athletic training when I was in high school after an injury during track and field. And I don't know if it was the teacher I had, but I just wanted to kind of hang out in that room, and I just picked up learning some things. I wasn't old enough to take the athletic training class quite yet, but I was like, all right, I'm gonna sign up for this right when I can for the next year, and that allowed me to work with various sports teams like volleyball, basketball, football sometimes, and when I was applying to college, I wasn't necessarily 100% set on anything. I applied to some schools with kind of that field, and I also applied to some schools for music. ASU was one of them. So my first experience with ASU was auditioning for them. I auditioned for the jazz studies program, and eventually I ended up not getting accepted for it. So that was kind of my tick to sign up for a different major, and I landed on biology. So after doing that during freshman year, it ended up being pretty challenging, and I don't know if it was necessarily what I wanted to do going down in my career. So a couple of things got brought up to me: exercise and wellness and kinesiology. And I ended up doing exercise and wellness, and I was introduced to just a whole lot of options for that, like personal training and physical therapy. I was working in the SDFC for pretty much all through college, so I was always around working out. And eventually, I got my personal training certificate, and I worked as a personal trainer there until I graduated. And the job I got right after college was an internship through the EXW program. And it was at an orthopedic physical therapy clinic. And my thing was I was trying to apply to physical therapy school. It didn't quite work out at that time. So I got my personal training certificate renewed, and I moved back up to Berkeley about 2 years ago. And I've been working as a personal trainer at Equinox ever since then. But since the COVID pandemic has happened, the gym shut down, and I kind of had to reevaluate my career, see if I really wanted to do this or if I wanted to go a different path. And right now I'm in a master's program for public health at Torrey University. So we're about halfway done with the first semester right now, and it's been it's been great getting back into school, but it's been a challenge, as you could all imagine, just doing Zoom University. Not gonna lie, it's not very fun, but we're learning some great stuff there. So I'm happy I got the opportunity to come speak with you guys today.
Awesome. I'm sure we'll hear lots more about twists and turns later on. But Alfonso, you want to tell us a little bit about you, what you're up to?
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Katie. It's been an honor, honestly, really. But for myself, I'm Alfonso Thompson. I'm actually a Northern California boy myself. I'm from Sacramento, born and raised. And then how I ended up at ASU is a bit different. I always grew up kind of the same as Marcus, kind of an athletic family. Always wanted to be around sports. My sport, which you'll find ironic, is football, American football. And I went to ASU because all my friends, actually, I had a friend play football at ASU, linebacker. So then I was like, yo, I'm going to try to play too. That didn't work out quite as well as I thought it would be, as a whopping 5'9", 180 kind of person. So that eventually led me to like, well, if I can't be an athlete myself, I want to train them, because I've always been, very curious. I was always the why guy, like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? Not in a way of confrontation, as my coaches always thought, but it was more of just curiosity to how this is going to physically prepare me to be a better athlete, a better football player. So that was when actually my first major, side note, was geography. So a lot different than what it is now, because I was still am interested in weather and all that kind of stuff. But that was that transition to where I was like, all right, I saw my course catalog for the rest of my years at ASU, and I was like, yeah, all these math classes aren't going to be it. So then I was like, I like working out. So then I switched over to exercise and wellness, kind of like what Marcus did. So then that led me to my path of, learning all the basic anatomy, physiology, and my counselor, I don't know if it was mine, but I believe her name was Dolores. I don't know if she's still there. But either way, I was kind of like, hey, so this is kind of like the career path I want to go down. What do you suggest I do? And she led me to, at the time, this place was called Athletes Performance. Now they're called Exos. So they're one of the premier training facilities for athletes, not just in our country, but known globally. For training high-end athletes. They've got famous for training NFL players, but now they train baseball, basketball, track, you name it, martial arts. So then that was kind of my aim, was for the end of my term, to get an internship for them. Before then, kind of like Marcus, I got my personal training. I worked at 24 Hour Fitness just to kind of get my foot in the door of the fitness industry. Started off at the front desk, kind of like anything else, right? Front desk work, late night, overnight shift, to then earning my money, to then pay for my personal training certificate, to then getting, I don't know if it's there anymore, but there was another facility called Athletic Republic in South Tempe, kind of like by Arizona Mills Mall, I think that's called. Yeah. Either way, so I was trying to get my foot in my door wherever I could, training athletes, training people. And in my field, kind of, at least for me, I think when you are introduced to the training world, having a wide variety of population that you work with really helps you hone in on whatever demographic you want to focus on later on. So like for a lot of trainers or strength coaches, they want to be like, hey, I just want to work with athletes. Well, you have to learn how to work with different kinds of people, because at the end of the day, athletes are people as well. And I think that's a big misconception of a lot of people from, outside of sports or just outside of fitness in general. They kind of like to generalize, our industry and stuff like that. But I feel like the broader base you have of experience, especially in the beginning, so you know how to really communicate with people. And I'll kind of dive into that a little bit later. But yeah, that's the biggest thing that, I was learning while I was at ASU, was to get experience and get exposure, as much as you can. So then, thankfully over that, my last semester of school, I was able to get the internship at Exos, and that experience kind of helped propel me to, where I am today. So then, like I said, after that, I moved back to Sacramento, and I was working at a physical therapy clinic, but they had a performance side there. So I was hired on as a performance coach. And then that place kind of got paired with, at the time, brand new professional soccer team. So then by default, I kind of became their assistant strength coach. But then in 2015, I had moved to Fresno, California to do my master's degree. But my master's degree was in sports psychology as opposed to kind of exercise science or anything like that. Just because, like I said earlier, that knowing the personal side and knowing how to connect, relate, build relationships with not only, you know, athletes, but your clientele, whoever that may be, is imperative to not just have buy-in, but, you know, consistency in whatever that they do. And then that kind of led to me, because of my Exos experience, and my just Arizona State experience as well. The soccer coach at Fresno State wanted me to work with the team, so then I kind of helped him with that. That led to me working with kind of an amateur team on the side. To then that team got kind of promoted to the USL Championship. So if you guys are familiar with like the Phoenix Rising, the same league that they're in. And then after that, I got the opportunity to become the Academy Strength and Conditioning Coach for Sporting Kansas City, which is an MLS club. So I moved out here to Kansas City, Missouri last year. And towards the end of last year, I ended up getting promoted to the senior team as being the head strength conditioning for Sporting. So that's been a crazy ride, honestly, because like I said, I grew up playing football. And then now to see that, you know, working with the professional soccer team, I mean, I would never imagine that this would happen. But like I said, all the experiences, all the side jobs, I taught classes at Fresno City College, you know, like like basic, you know, exercise classes, kind of like what you guys are taking now. So that was like all those grad teachers that you probably give a hard time to. That was me. So be nice to them. And, but yeah, honestly, that's my quick little synopsis about me, where I came from and what I'm at and where I'm doing now. And, yeah, I mean, for being away from home and all that stuff, I mean, my experience at ASU I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for all those experiences to where I'm at now. I mean, it definitely wasn't easy. It's still not easy. Same thing, it gets harder as you kind of progress. But at the end of the day, it's pretty cool to be back to help you guys out. Because I was in that same, I mean, it's probably cliche part here all the time, but I was in the same seat looking up to people as well. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's it for me for right now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so good. I think, thank you both for sharing. I think what I hear from both of you is a couple things. Is one, you don't have to have it all figured out your first year, that there's time. You have time to figure things out, time to figure out your perfect spot. So don't panic. And then the second part I hear from both of you is that you both kind of took opportunities as they came your way. So things that maybe we wouldn't think of like as like the straightforward traditional path, and kind of grabbed experiences from all of those. So I guess I would ask, Marcus, we can start with you. What's like an experience or a skill that you didn't expect to learn or need at a job that maybe wasn't your favorite, or in your time in school that you use now? Yeah.
Well, I'd say just how I started developing myself like that. Right when I got to ASU, I was really excited about coming to college. So I just wanted to meet as many people as I could. It was exciting. I'd never really been in a situation like that before. And the joy was everyone else was in that same situation. Being a freshman, I also lived in Hasse. So we were kind of in the center of things. So I didn't necessarily have like a specific like thing I did, but I would just meet people in my classes, and I'd be at the gym, not all the time, but pretty regularly, because we didn't have that extension yet. There was only one weight room. So if you went anytime besides the middle of the day, then you wouldn't be able to work out. So that's where I met a lot of people that I ended up kind of interacting with throughout the remainder of college. And I had a really difficult time applying for jobs when I was a freshman, because I only had one job in high school. So they wanted people with experience, but I landed an interview at the SDFC, and I was like, you know what, I have to kill this interview. So I ended up getting the job there as a weight room supervisor, and I met a ton of people there just because you work there for a few hours, you see all these people just come in and out of the gym. So that's just kind of how I started interacting, and then I saw the personal trainers there too, so that kind of got me looking like, oh, I want to do this. I'm sick of cleaning up weights and sitting behind the desk. So the big thing was like I did have some workout experience before, just playing like football in high school. You had to lift weights, so I was pretty familiar with that aspect. And the personal training salary was about double from what I was getting paid. So I was like, you know, I got to do this. Got to be a personal trainer. And doing that, you talk to so many different types of people, and you'll find that your communication skills just increase. So I would say overall, just being approachable and just saying hi to people. But I mean, I know y'all don't get that exact same opportunity right now because of current situations. So
in the future, I think it's interesting too that you guys both mentioned putting your time in behind the desk. That did that front desk work, and sometimes you learn a lot of things there. Those communication skills. Alfonso, what would you say from your journey of an unexpected skill that you picked out?
Yeah, I mean, totally agreeing with what Marcus said. I mean, for me, I graduated high school 17, and my birthday's in November. So, I mean, I didn't even turn 18 until 3 months into my freshman year. So then being out on your own, I mean, granted, I feel bad for you guys because we were talking about this before y'all hopped on. But like I said, I lived at Hacienda as well at the Tempe campus. And then just being able to have, not only just your roommate, your suite mates, but your whole floor, and being able to, really go out and experience stuff like that. I mean, that's irreplaceable, I feel like. But I mean, hopefully sooner than later, you guys get to have that. Because like I said earlier, man, like it develops a lot of more, I think, especially at such a big school like Arizona State, a lot of your not only social skills, but your social awareness of kind of when to say things, when not to say things. And then like a book that I would recommend that you guys read, if you haven't read it already, is a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's a classic book, but it's exactly what it sounds like. I mean, not to say that you guys don't have any friends, but pretty much to say how to really communicate and see things from the other person's perspective. Because especially when you're a trainer and you have a program and you have an idea of what, you want that person to do, or they have an idea, we're the kind of median in between that kind of helps clear up that blurred line of, okay, I want to be like this. And then you have this knowledge. But then if I just tell you to do something, I mean, at the end of the day, we know that, I mean, if it were that easy, I mean, we probably wouldn't have jobs, right? Because
right.
by themselves. But being able to kind of see things through the other person's perspective, being able to listen and be attentive is huge. So like attention to detail, from the grand scheme of things, knew was important, but the severity of the importance, I guess, was heightened once I not only got to, in the industry, but then just kind of working in the different places where I was at. So whether it was personal training, whether it was me working at FedEx, late at night, just based on, having to make money, or whether it's working at the club I'm at now, so just knowing how to deal and communicate people, different types of personalities is, I think, more beneficial than the X's and O's of what we do. Because you could write the perfect program, but if you can't get that person to be consistent or follow it or believe in what you're having them do, then it's useless. So I feel like just being able to connect and relate was something that you're always told, but I guess really didn't realize the severity of it until you actually are in it and you experience it. So that has been my biggest takeaway, especially, when you're young. I mean, I don't know for Marcus, but for me, having to meet new people, making mistakes is the biggest thing too, not being afraid of mistakes either. Because that's how you learn, whether it's you completely embarrass yourself at a party, or we don't have to go into details about how we can do that. But then, or if it's like, whether it's at a job or things like that, just kind of heightening your social awareness and how other people may perceive you and then how you perceive them, and without getting too all just, psychological and all that kind of stuff. But I really feel like that is imperative and something that I had, and it didn't just take my freshman year. I mean, damn, I can still say I'm learning how to do that, but it's something that is the quicker you're aware of it, I feel like it'd be more beneficial for you guys.
Really good. I think that's spot on. Especially when we talk about health, being aware of interacting with people, of different kinds of people, I think that all plays into health. But Marcus, you seemed pretty enthusiastic about the mistake portion of things and overcoming challenges. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, honestly, just looking back at it, I don't feel like I took enough risks when I was there. I mean, I was a talker. Like I would talk to pretty much anyone. But as far as like jumping on, I wouldn't say I skipped opportunities, but I didn't make a lot of opportunities for myself. So that was a difficult thing that I learned the hard way. Because I mean, time goes on, then it's time to graduate, and you got to find out what you're gonna do, and then you got to show them what you've done. And I'm like, oh, I don't feel like I've done enough. So make opportunities for yourself.
100%.
Really good.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was planning events this summer, and I probably reached out to like 10 or 15 people who I thought could lead a workout, and Marcus is the only one who responded back to me. And now he had an opportunity to lead a workout for students, staff, and alumni. That was really hard, and also share with you guys today. But it was just because he said yes and responded. And I mean, he has the skills to back it up, but he said yes. And I think sometimes that can make all the difference. We have some really good questions coming through here in the chat. Someone asks, what aspects of your majors or things you learned in school, what things are things you use now in your career? What are things you're thankful that you spent time studying? Yeah, go for it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, I guess for me, I mean, the X's and O's of, strength conditioning, whether it's strength conditioning, personal training, or just being a performance coach, it's, and I even feel like my upperclassmen classes to where it really hones in on the anatomy and the physiology. I mean, that just lays a foundation for everything you base your career on, honestly. I mean, I knew some friends that, were, I mean, just like anything else, you want to pass the class, right? So then they do what they can just to get a passing grade. But for me, it was like, well, for other little BS, elective classes, maybe, okay, cool, whatever. But like, these are the core classes that we're going to base our career on. So if I were to say a specific class, I mean, I can't really name one because they're just all the foundational classes that you build your foundation on. I mean, I still, basic, like hypertrophy principles, general anatomy or general physiology for when we do like our off-season conditioning program. So I mean, all that stuff. Not to say that I'm looking at like my course, my textbook, the notes I took, but that's still general information that you learn when you're, a sophomore or junior. And I still use that because you're not going to remember everything. I mean, especially in today's world, there's so much information out there. It's very easy to get lost in what to study, what to look for, this, that, and the other. So having your frame of mind, I mean, I still have my, I think it was the NSCA book that was lent when I was a freshman. Not freshman, when I was a senior, that I still look at today. I mean, there are still things like even some notes from like my EXW, what would that be, like 330 or something like that. That I still have a binder that I still look at, and this was like, almost 8 years ago. So just paying attention and really being involved. And once you start getting into your core classes that are actually going to be relevant to what you're doing, if you want to be anything in the physical realm, I mean, I think that's huge. So I can't really name one or so, but they all lay the foundation for you to base yourself on.
It's really good. So it's worth it to study for anatomy and physiology. Got it?
Yeah, and it's hard as hell too. So it's like, so you need to.
Exactly. I think a lot of people end up like bumping up against that, but sounds like it's worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus, what about you? Things you use now.
Can you rephrase the question? I got kind of carried away in the story.
Oh, no worries. I know. You guys both have really good things to say. They're just asking, what's something you learned in school that you actually use is essentially the question.
Definitely behavioral health change. That's a specific class. I think it's like EXW like 340 or something like that. But I found that in personal training and what I'm doing right now, which is public health and emphasizing focus on the community. If you're a personal trainer, the program is only so much. Like Alfonso was saying, you have to have someone that's committed to your plan. So this is kind of something I learned at the personal training job I'm at right now, which is kind of how to communicate that with people. So you got to do your research ahead of time, which is why all of you were in the EXW program. So anatomy, the more you know with that, the more professional you're going to sound as a personal trainer. So if you could really explain to people how to become aware of their body and what changes they could potentially see if they take your guidance, then you're going to be a lot more successful. So just the more you know the body and be honest with people. That's the biggest thing. Like I'm not gonna lie to someone and be like, oh, you're gonna put on this amount of muscle or lose this amount of weight just with this program. No, they're not even doing that already most of the time. So you have to bump them to that first step initially, and there's going to be some sort of conflicts. You need to see how they respond to your training, and they need to be able to be coached by you. So you have to find some sort of in between that works for both of you, because it's not a 2-week commitment. Any of this, the way I sell it, it's a lifetime. So I teach skills that they could use for the rest of their lives. That's how anatomy really helps you, and also physiology. So those are kind of the bread and butter of what you'll learn. The other classes are essentially in-depth versions of those two aspects. But I say behavioral health change is the most important, because essentially any path you go down from EXW or kin, that is going to help you so much, no matter what position you are in, no matter if you're a head person in the job, or if you're doing customer service, or you're working with patients, clients, whatever. Behavioral health change is going to help so much. So, not even in class, but if you just learn about like behavioral health changes and all the theories on your own, that's going to help you so much just progress through your academic career. And I was seeing a lot of questions about like internships and all that. This kind of brings something else into it. Talk to your academic advisor and be completely honest with them. They're only here to help. And I didn't see mine until my later half in college, or when I switched my majors. And mine, she really helped me kind of get my resume together and teach me how to communicate with people to get like internships and volunteer hours and all that, because that wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. But we could get into that a different question, I think.
Good. It's really good. Yeah, there are a lot that has come up in previous panels, that there are a lot of people available to you that want to help you. And sometimes it's just about raising your hand and asking, being that squeaky wheel, showing up to your advisor, reaching out to your faculty.
Yeah, can I add something to that?
Absolutely.
Well, not only that, because like I said, I didn't even know about then athletes performance, now Exos, without me going to ask. my advisor about, hey, like this is a career I want to do. What do you think I should do? And then, so I would have never even known that. But even on top of that, like I was looking in the chat and saying, they were asking, a lot of you guys are asking, you know, how do you look at or go about looking for jobs or internships, or even as a young person, you know, you're fresh out of high school, you may not have had a job. I mean, how do you go about doing that? The first was, I can't remember where exactly, but somewhere on ASU to where they have like job listings. And that my first ever job, like ever in life, like that actually got paid for, aside just from like doing yard work, was they called it, I don't know what it was, but I was calling alumni asking for money. And it's pretty much a glorified telemarketer, and that lasted 2 weeks. But anyway, there was like a website to where you can look at for jobs and stuff. But regarding for what I do, or now how I got into this, I mean, the front desk is a very general, you don't need to have much experience to work the front desk. But it was kind of when I knew that I was going to be in the fitness. So that was kind of how I just did it. I applied to a lot of different gyms, and one was hiring, and I did it. But to get more specific into the internship, so like later on, I found out I wanted to be, you know, specifically with athletes. So then just looking in Google and searching sport performance places and calling them. That's another thing too. Like not only not being fearful of making mistakes, but don't be fearful of rejection either. Because it's going to happen. People are going to tell you no, things aren't going to go as well as you think that they're going to go. But you just got to be willing to put yourself out there. And someone will say, yeah, it may not be as soon as you like, you know, but at the end of the day, that's a huge thing as well. You just can't be afraid to, I mean, you could be afraid. I mean, that's a normal feeling. Like we don't have to hide feelings. Like we can be afraid, and that's normal. That's okay. You can be nervous. That's normal. That's okay. But the willingness to put yourself out there is it. Because if you don't do that, then no one's going to, like, people aren't going to, a lot of times kids make mistakes of thinking employers are looking for them and that you're helping them out, when in reality it's the other way around. Like they're helping you out. So you got to go above and beyond to stand out. Like a big thing for me, honestly, the only reason why I feel like I got the Excel internship was because I called them, I emailed them, talked to them. Like 2 or so months went by, and I was like, you know, I'm going to follow up with them because I haven't heard back from them. So then I followed up with them, and they was like, oh yeah, like let's do this and that. But had I not followed up with them, I can almost guarantee I wouldn't have gotten that internship. So not being afraid of sending an email, not being afraid of calling. If they answer, great. If they don't, great, move on. So now you can X that off your list and then just move on to the next without having to worry about it. But that's a major thing too. So not only being afraid of making mistakes, not only talking to your advisor, but just picking up the phone, calling people, sending an email. That will go a long way for sure.
Yeah, I want to kind of go off on that. I'll tell my kind of observation hour internship story thing. It honestly, it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be to even get an observing and volunteer position. I think I was probably like a sophomore, maybe when I started doing this. But over the summer, but before I was going to start my junior year, I picked out like 20 places or something, and I wrote letters. Like I printed out, mailed them, and all that, because I was trying to just not be another email. Because I mean, I see there's 61 of you. There's going to be 60 emails to a personal training location or physical therapy clinic right by campus. So automatically, you're in a pool where you have to compete with others. So what I recommend doing, I don't know about the letter method. That honestly, I got one acceptance, and that's the place where I ended up volunteering at. And it was even way out of my way. So I did bike to the light rail, take the light rail to like, I forgot what part of, I think it was like Central Phoenix, and then I had to bike even more to go to that location. That was just for volunteering, no pay. And I knew that would be kind of a baseline of how I'd get started. And the internship, it was just about the same thing. It was through ASU. you have to, I don't know if they still do this, but you have to do an internship for like 6 credits or something like that. But even then, I did the same kind of process. I sent letters, I called people. One place got back to me, and I went in there. And I was like, I'm trying to dress as nice as I can, be as professional as I can, because I have to get this thing. And that ended up being the place where I worked at right after college. So if you go into a place, I mean, I would dress professional, introduce yourself to them. They might not have a spot for you, but just like Alfonso was saying, follow up with them, because I mean, time flies, things change, employment changes. So there could be that one opportunity for you to land your position.
For sure. And that's
references from those as well, because the world is very knit. People know each other in different places, so that's how you can kind of finesse your way through the system.
That's honestly exactly how I ended up at Sporting, because I actually interviewed for the strength coach position at Minnesota United. Didn't get it, but then because the strength coach at Minnesota United used to work at Sporting, the guy at Sporting Kansas City called the guy in Minnesota and was like, "Hey, I'm looking for a guy to fill this position. Do you know anybody?" And he was like, "Yeah, this guy really did well in his interview, but I kind of went with somebody else, but he's really good. You should follow up with him. This guy is me." So it just because, and that's the same thing, like do as best you can, present yourself as best you can whenever you can. And even though it may not show up immediately, exactly like what Marcus alluded to happened to me. That guy referenced me to somebody else, and then, here I am. So put yourself out there and make yourself stand out, because I mean, I get a lot of different internship emails now. So it's actually kind of weird, because now I'm getting those emails.
You're the real adult.
Right? Yeah, damn, it's crazy. But then even then, it's like I look for the ones that, obviously have, the X's and O, but who stands out? Like who knows how to write an email? As funny as that may sound, like if you can actually properly write an email and make grammatical sense and be appropriate in the email, then I'll actually look at the resume. Because then, I don't want to get into that, but.
No, I think that's a really important point.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, did you lose us?
No, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. No, I thought you were going to keep going. I think
no.
Both of you guys bring up really important points of, I think, especially if you're kind of in this exercise world of, you are working out for class, you're working out on your own time, you get to wear your athletic clothes. It can be really exciting, spending a lot of time studying, but it's also, writing skills are also important, and presenting yourself professionally and all of that. It really does take a well-rounded person to end up in a position like both of you guys find yourselves in. Marcus, I have a question here, and I think you can answer this. Even if you just tell us a little bit about this journey, but Justin asks, I feel like you can speak to this specifically. Was going to graduate school ever a consideration to be a PT or anything like that? You want to talk a little bit about your journey to how you ended up in school now?
Oh yeah, definitely.
This is like Marcus's niche.
So yeah, for PT school, you got to kind of jump on your stuff early, or else you're going to screw yourself over. The number one advice I would give: have a variety of places where you observe. So one thing that I got docked on for a lot of my PT applications, so I applied for physical therapy school 3 separate rounds, and I didn't get accepted once. So not only were my grades weren't the best, and that already put me at a disadvantage, but I only had volunteer experience in orthopedic clinics. And it wasn't until I was graduated for maybe like a year or maybe even 2 years where I got my first inpatient volunteer experience. And that was a whole different ballgame. You're in a building with mostly, okay, I'm not gonna lie, all senior citizens, and everyone is bedridden to some extent, and you have to well, you're volunteers, so you're not gonna be in charge of this, but you had to convince them to get up and exercise after like they had like a hip replacement. So that's when the communication skills come intact. So sorry, I kind of off track there. Grades is more important than I thought, or are more important than I thought. My first major was biology, and I didn't do that well. And I didn't realize how many of those classes would be core classes for the PT requirements. So after I graduated, I had to retake essentially all those classes at community college while I was working 12 hours in the PT clinic. So that's why I say it's better to jump on the stuff early, or else you're going to be sunned up to 1 a.m. doing work every day. So a variety of volunteer experiences, that's number one. And having a car is going to help you a lot with that, because I just had a bike, so I was limited with places where I can go, and that put me at a disadvantage. And yeah, volunteering. I talked to the PTs there, and I would just get consistent advice from them. I was like, hey, I'm right here. What do I have to do next to get into your position? So you got to talk to people that are in the profession already, and they'll kind of hook you up. Hold on. This question is from Mark. What grades are essential?
I think they're trying to steal my job. Yeah, answer the question.
Go for it. Yeah, I mean, I hate to be brutal, but as close to a 4.0 as possible. So, I mean, you just got to develop some good habits right away. Some of those could be sit in the front of the classroom every class, and you don't necessarily have to be a talker in all of them, but I tried to ask one question per day. It could be a big or little question, and talk to your professors after. That'll just help you get more engaged in the class. You're not necessarily like kissing up to them or anything, but it'll just help that engagement subconsciously between both of you. And
that's good.
Yeah, the programs, you kind of have to look at them early on, because there's so many different requirements. Applying to one PT school or any type of graduate school is just not realistic unless you have a really good connection for that. And even then, that doesn't even work out sometimes. So volunteer experiences and even just extracurricular activities, like it doesn't even have to be like an exercise club, any club, like math, music, anything. You just have to stand out from other people that are going to be applying as well. And communication skills are essential for being a PT, because you are one-on-one with someone for 1 hour most of the time. And that's multiple days a week.
I'd also like to give a little plug here too. If PT school, if med school, OT school, something like that is something you're looking into, there are pre-health advisors that will help you specifically with that. And so it's never too early to talk to your advisor and have them get you connected to resources, because they can help you out, get that on that path. Alfonso, did you want to add anything about a graduate school experience?
Yeah, I do. But what Marcus said about talking to your teachers, that's one thing I really wish I would have done. So like one of the questions, like, what would you tell your freshman self? Like, I really regret not building a better relationship with my professors. Not relationships, like, so you're not being like a, butt kisser or anything like that. But, especially because like at the Tempe campus alone, like I remember being in a class of one of like 500 people, and, you're just kind of in one of the masses, right? But then only the few people that actually got to talk to them, really help you learn stuff. But then later on, especially when you get into your core classes, would be, connections, networking. There's that, your networking right there is really talking to your teacher. And that's something I really wish I took advantage of, because I was a student. I mean, I would do my work, but I would just go and leave. I'd go there, would show up, not talk to anybody, not to the professor. No one. When the class was over, I just dipped out. But I know sometimes your schedule dictates that as well. But I really do regret not having that you know, at least, especially when I got older in the upper division classes, I really do regret that. But going to grad school, I mean, that was something that was apparent. I mean, your grad program for the most part is really small and intimate anyway. So it's a little easier to do that. And mine is a lot different than going into PT school because, like I said, I got my master's in sports psychology, and that's really, from my undergrad classes, I mean, nothing really, I mean, yeah, you had your basic like Psych 101, but I mean, I even when I was in grad school, I had to take like 2 lower division classes when I was in grad school so I can meet the requirement. But regarding like hours and things like that, I mean, it's such a different course. It's mainly just about reading and talking and discussing stuff, honestly. So, and honestly, how I got into that was when I was at Exos, we were hosting an NSCA conference, National Strength Conditioning Conference. And the head of education knew the professor at Fresno State. And I had to take the guy home, or not to take him home. I had to drive him to the airport, and kind of goes to what we spoke about earlier. I mean, like, you're doing this stuff for free. We were staying like 30 minutes away from the airport. So I was actually pissed. I had to take him to the airport because I knew I wasn't going to get gas money. But then, not being awkward, and, you know, I was talking to the guy during the trip there. And then I was like, hey, I'm looking into grad school. Like, I heard, you know, but I'm interested in your program, chatting it up, whatever. And then push come to shove, like when I moved out to Sacramento, I drove down there to Fresno. It's only a couple hours away. And honestly, I genuinely feel like that's the only reason why I got accepted to that school, because my GRE scores weren't that good. So honestly, I feel like that's the only reason why I got in, was because I had the connection with him prior to me going there. So that's another reason to really focus on networking and talking to people. Because I can honestly say I probably wouldn't have got into grad school if it weren't for that, because my scores weren't that hot. But even within, like, once you're in grad school, I mean, the same thing as with undergrad, just, you know, you're doing a professional degree. So it's more or less like doing things that are applicable to what you're going to do. And I would note, like, a lot of people are so quick to just get a degree, master's degree. It took me, I took a year off for school. Then I did it. And I think that was super helpful, because I feel like a lot of times I know people from my degree, especially, they have it, but then they're not doing anything with it. So you essentially just wasted time. And I'm not one to, I mean, I'm all for education, but to be completely honest, I mean, I wouldn't have got my master's degree unless I didn't need it to propose me to a better job, to be completely honest. So then, but because I knew what I wanted to do, and I was aware that I needed a master's degree to kind of get to where I wanted to be. And that's why I did it. To where sometimes they just do it just to do it. But then after they're done, it's like they do something completely different. I mean, sometimes life happens and I get that, but I was just like, you just wasted 2 years of your life and 2 years of money just to get a master's degree, even though you're doing something completely different. So I would take time, unless you just know from the get-go that that's what you're going to do, and that's it, then by all means. But I would just take time to really make sure you're getting to a program that's right for you. Because especially, I mean, I can't speak to like PT, but I know it's like with my other classmates that are now getting their PhDs in sports, like a lot of programs have different emphases. Like for me, for example, the reason why I went to mine was because not just was in sports psychology, but it was really in coaching and talent development, which was why I want to work under this specific person. So it wasn't just I wanted to get a sports psych degree just to get a sports psych degree. I specifically went to that school to work with that specific person. And that specific person got me in, essentially. I mean, he probably will never tell me that, but I pretty much think that. So it has to be directed and planned, I feel like. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time and money. More importantly, probably your money.
Absolutely. Well, it's sort of like training, right? We do the hard thing to get the payoff.
Yeah, exactly. You do all. I was gonna say this earlier. Like, don't think that you're too big for anything. You know, like me having to drive homeboy to the airport, you know, and I didn't really want to. but I did it because it was probably a good thing to do. Or it's like, you know, I'm working this, I need a job. So then I worked at FedEx in grad school just so I could, you know, pay rent and do stuff. Did I want to work at FedEx, or did I know that I was going to have a career in the package industry? No, but you know, you can't be too big for certain things. You can't, you know, I was a strength coach for a junior college soccer team, you know, after already working with pro teams, after already working with professional players, like, and I'm not demeaning junior college by any means, but once again, it's an experience that you need to have, you know, or you can tell them no, just because you think you're too good for that. Like, no chance. Like, that attitude will never carry you far. And not in this career, but in many careers. I would imagine any, honestly. So just chomp at the bit and just do whatever you can, whenever you can. And never get too I don't know, stressed, anxiety, because when people, the more responsibilities you have, or that people are kind of offering you, means that you're on the right track, because people trust you and trust your work, because they wouldn't ask you to do it if they didn't believe that you could do it. That's something that I was taught by one of my mentors, is like, you know, in the beginning of an internship, we don't allow you to do anything, and you have to earn your right to do stuff. And the more stuff you do, it may be stressful, but guess what? Like, we trust that you can do it. So you're on the right way. Just do what you do. So don't think that you're too big for anything, whether it's a job, an experience, taking someone to the airport with no gas, anything like that.
Sacramento Airport's also kind of in the middle of nowhere. Is that where you were?
I was actually, no, at this specific moment, I was in Phoenix. So we were,
okay.
You know, I had taken with Sky Harbor, and we were, I don't know, somewhere out in Mesa. It was like
inconvenient.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And I didn't have any air conditioning either.
Oh.
In like August.
That's a sacrifice.
Yeah, I mean, I felt bad for him, honestly. Like, for me, it was no big deal. For this
Like, I'm used to
I
it.
kind of felt bad, but whatever.
That's hilarious. Okay, well, we're almost at the end of our time. It goes by so fast, but just one last question. So our students that are here today, like you've said, are going through really unique college experience. So class through ASU Sync or online, and they're kind of having to be really adaptable and change things quickly. I mean, we all are. Both of you kind of in your journeys have shown a lot of perseverance and flexibility. I wonder, Marcus, we can start with you. If you can just share a little bit about why you think that's important, and how someone maybe could develop that skill if they don't have it.
Yeah. This is not an easy career to go down. I'm being honest, because you're not going to be making the same money that like a financial analyst or something is going to make. So you really have to show that you're dedicated to the field. And like I was saying, I didn't get paid for most of this stuff besides personal training at the SDFC. I didn't get paid for any of the internship or volunteer stuff I was doing, and I was biking for hours a week to get to those places. And that's how you know you really kind of want something, if you would do it for free because you think it's going to be a good investment to make. And just going to class and all that, that's not enough. Like, if you really are serious about doing just training or anything like that, you'll constantly be trying to gather information about that field and learning how to apply it to real life. So, and I'm going through a similar struggle. I started grad school a few months ago, and I've never done a Zoom university before, and it's not easy, but thankfully I have a small cohort, so it doesn't get too insane most of the time. And this field that I'm in right now, it's public health. I wouldn't necessarily say I wanted to be a personal trainer for my career or a physical therapist or whatever, but I wanted to just help people in the health fields. And this ended up being, at the time, the best way for me to do so. I've always wanted to just keep people as healthy as possible. And I'm talking about more of the community, not necessarily individuals. So it's been a slow development. Like I'm just starting going back into grad school right now, and I graduated in 2016 from ASU. And if I had gone to PT school right after college, then it'd be a whole separate thing right now. So you just have to make sure that you enjoy what you're doing and you see how it could be a good investment for you. And you guys are gonna struggle, especially at the middle towards end of college. You just have to accept that. So you got to make sure what you're doing is going to be a good investment for you in the future. And like Alfonso was saying, don't get stressed out about this. You're just trying new things, and stress it'll destroy you. I was dealing with anxiety during that time and after college, and I would have been just a lot better off if I just relaxed a little bit. So be urgent with things, but relax too.
Absolutely. You got to enjoy your life. All right. What about you, Alfonso? Coach us to be flexible.
Yeah, I mean, along with that, I mean, I guess it kind of goes down to your why, right? Like, why are you doing this? Oh, because I want to work with athletes. Well, why do you want to work with athletes? Because this and this. We'll keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, because for me, honestly, it was at the end of the day, when it came down to those challenging moments, like I said, being from Sacramento, I didn't really come from the most affluent family, and my grandparents were helping me the most in school. And it was like, that was first generation college student. So then I was like, I have to do this because I can't let my grandmother down, because she's doing X, Y, and Z when she's retired. She doesn't have to be doing this to help me get through school, to be an example because I'm one of 5, be an example for my younger siblings, be an example to all my cousins, be the example, because whether I wanted to or not, I mean, they were all looking up to me, whether I asked them to or not, like they were looking up to me, and I couldn't live with being a failure in that regard. So when it came down to working the internships of like Mark was saying, the first internship I had was just purely just based on credit. Like I needed to fulfill the requirement to graduate.
Yeah.
It was like 6 units and 120 hours, right? So after that 120, that was it. But then the second one, I was like, this is for me. This is for my career, because this is what I want to do. And working 12 to 15 hour days unpaid was a grind for 3.5 from August through December. Imagine you literally can't work another job because you're working there 12, 15 hours a day. You're not getting paid. So then there were a lot of moments I sat in my car and I was like, why the hell am I doing this? Mind you, Exos is like super North Phoenix, like off the like where the 101 and 51 meet. So every day, and I lived in Tempe, so it took me about 30 minutes to and from there every single day without getting paid. So then at that moment, you're like, all right, like, once again, why am I doing this? And there were plenty of moments to where being vulnerable, I mean, you know, you're frustrated, you cry because you don't know why you're putting yourself through all this hell. But it's in those moments to where you really rely on your foundation, your founding principle and what you're doing and why you're doing it. And honestly, if you go through certain experiences and you realize this isn't it, that's okay too. There have been plenty of people that I've met during not only the course of my academic career, but in jobs, internships, that they're like, you know, I want to do this and this isn't for me. And there's no shame in realizing that, because why live an unhappy life? Because no matter what you make financially, it's all about your mental health and mental well-being. If you go home hating your life every day, but you make 6 figures, I mean, who's really going to be, you know, who's winning? The guy making half of that, but he or she loves his life. They don't call it work because they're doing what they love to do. And that's important as well. So that's another reason to why I really emphasize getting experience in multiple different avenues within the same thing, because now you realize I either really want to do this or I definitely don't want to do this, which is okay. Either one's okay. But then when the moments get tough, your kind of lifeline is realizing or keep reflecting on why it is what you're doing, and who's your support group, whether it's your friends, family, mentor, whatever, relying on them to ask you or to help guide you through certain situations, more specific situations. But at the end of the day, I mean, they say in sport, like, hard times don't build character, they reveal it. And it is those moments to where you kind of, have a mirror check, and then you can either build upon that and grow from it, or you can, let the outside external stimulus, be I didn't do it because he did it, or because this didn't happen for me. It's like, yeah, sometimes things happen, but at the end of the day, you paint your own path. So how you respond to those situations, what dictates you going either left or right. But once again, you kind of rely on your own personal reasons, whatever they may be, to then help guide you whether you go left or right. Not to get all philosophical, but I really feel like, that's what I went through personally. And it's kind of how, I try to help, whether my clients, whether they're kids, general pop, college, pro athletes. At the end of the day, we're all people going through stuff, and it's all contextual and, within our own perspective, how we handle it. But I feel like that's your safety net, is kind of knowing why you're doing it, and not just saying, okay, I like this, like that, but really keep asking why, and just keep deeper until there's no deeper to go. And I feel like that for sure is the motivation that kind of helps push me through tough times, because there were definitely many. And there's always going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, but it's kind of how you respond to these situations dictates how bright the light is going to be, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so wise. And I think so much of what both of you have shared has been about, we know how to train our bodies to be physically healthy, but if we aren't also mentally healthy, there's a disconnect there. So whether that's a little bit of self-care, or saying no to things that just aren't right for you, those are all things we got to focus on. Well, we are actually a little bit over our time, but just want to say thank you both so much for being here. I think what you guys shared was so relevant and so generous with your time. We really, really, really appreciate that. And hopefully one day we can bring you back and you can come to campus. We can hang out there. But until then, thanks so much for joining us from the far corners of the US. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you.
And then, also just want to mention, if anyone who's watching wants to get connected with these guys, has some maybe specific questions, or, is looking to do a little networking, let me know. I'll drop my email in the chat and you guys can stay connected that way.
Actually, so this past preseason, so with sporting, we always have our preseason in Phoenix. And actually this past February, I took 2 of our guys to the downtown campus to do their VO2 max test.
Oh, nice.
That was my first time being back on campus since I graduated. And that
was oh my goodness. Well, we gotta figure something out. Yeah, we'll host you next time you come out.
Yeah, that'd be great, honestly. Because with this preseason may be different with COVID, obviously, but every year sporting, we go down to Phoenix for preseason.
That's funny. I didn't realize you were from Northern California as well. I'm not from there, but I did an internship at UC Davis, but I worked at the minor league baseball stadium in Sacramento.
Yeah, the River Cats.
Yeah, go River Cats. And I had no idea how little sports had to do with sports.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Like this much of it. The rest of it is ticket sales. Wild. Sponsors. Awesome.
Well, yeah, I see people logging off, but I'm happy to help in kind of any aspect, whether it's school stuff or career, whatever. Katie will give y'all the email. So feel free to reach out. And if it comes down to it, we can also do like a phone call if necessary.
Yeah. And then Katie, they updated my email at work literally 2 days ago. So I don't know if you noticed, but I could send you that.
Yeah,
But it's
send it my
literally
way.
my name, alfonso.thompson at sportingkc.com.
Nice. Did they just update everyone's? Like everyone's changed?
Yeah, it's been a disaster, honestly, because now we don't get emails. So then, yeah. But anyways.
So it's alfonso.thompson?
Yeah. Yep. That's how you
At
spell it.
Sporting KC.
Alfonso.thompson at sportingkc.com. And then same thing, like if I have a Instagram as well, just look up my name. And then you can see training stuff, I guess.
Cool stuff you're doing. Awesome. Yeah, I'll try to get your information too to their CHS 101 facilitators, and they can get them out that way. But I'm seriously so thankful, you guys. This is awesome, and hopefully we can do something cool like this again soon. But I'll let you go. I know it's a lot of your time, but
no, it's okay. Thank you for having me again. I feel honored.
Oh my goodness, of course. Thank you both, Marcus.
Thank you.
Thanks for squeezing us in, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
All right.